All right, let's kick it off. So this week, again, we're going to be extending the discussion that we had previous meetup, which was 2 weeks ago. And just to remind everyone, we're going to talk about AI second order effects here. And there actually has been quite, because of AI moving so rapidly, ongoing conversations with regards to second order effects, not only from a technical perspective. What I'm going to illuminate and provide more color on today is the financing aspect of it and how we at Collab Land are positioning ourselves, because no one really knows what the effect or the long-term kind of evolution of AI is going to be. And I know that a lot of people are thinking about AI alignment when it comes to is AI good in general, or the AI doomers are saying, well, this is an existential issue. We're not going to be talking about the kind of long-term effects of AI in that way, but more about how it impacts Web3. And again, I'll review in the next slide after the second order effects is how this is ushering a new era of the internet and how we're going to be absorbing this with the Collab Land dev portal, because we've launched the dev portal. And what we're going to be doing, and this is where it's a sneak peek in terms of our next product, which is the Pro Bot launch. And if there are any questions at the end, we'll save them and have a QA, and happy to answer questions specifically about AI and any other questions in general when it comes to what we're doing at Collabland. So jumping into it, let's move on to AI and the second order effect. So what we're seeing here, and if you've been on Twitter and on Reddit specifically, is that there now is payment for API access. And what we've been doing at Collabland with the dev portal launch is also following along those lines in terms of monetizing for API access. And I'll talk about that when we discuss in more detail the dev portal launch. But there is a huge concern, and the reason why Twitter and Reddit are saying that they need to pay for API access is that there's a lot of like scraping that's going on. So just to take a step back, when it comes to this version of AI that we're discussing, is the large language models. And with large language models, they need a lot of data from them. And so companies like Twitter, companies like Reddit that have a lot of user generated data, what they're doing is they're saying, well, these large language models and these companies that provide this AI are using data that does not belong to their platform data. And so, in effect, what they're saying is that these companies, these AI companies, are using data that they don't have rights to in order to sell AI products. And what we're doing at Collabland is somewhat similar, but with a different take. Because with Web3 and the values and the vision of what we're trying to accomplish at Collabland is self-sovereignty. And so when we're saying that we're paying for API access, there is an idea here that the data actually belongs to the user, not the platform. So when we talk about in the dev portal and when we're launching in paid API access, we always want to make sure that we provide the ability for the end user to be able to selectively disclose what information they want to make public or not. So in the time between the last AI research team meetup and this one, there was a new social network that was released by Meta, Facebook. So it's called Threads. And a lot of the conversation when it comes to scraping of data, it has been accused by Twitter that Threads or Meta or Instagram has illegally scraped a lot of that data. And so there was a time, I believe it was last week, where Twitter really throttled the usage. And so we're seeing this already being played out at scale with these large companies, these social networks. And what we're seeing is there is this evolution when it comes to social networks as well, where you're seeing, and it's really interesting, Instagram leveraging their user base to bootstrap Threads. So I believe Threads was able to obtain, I think it was like 100 million users in a few days, whereas that mantle was recently um, given to OpenAI because I think it took them about a month to do so. And with OpenAI, they went from like 0 users to like 100 million within a month, whereas with Threads, they went in using Instagram's user base to that 100 million within days. So you can see that leveraging existing user bases or networks can really jumpstart. And that's what we're doing here along with everyone else. And when you think about Collab Land, we're bootstrapping these communities on Telegram and on Discord based off the shared asset, predominantly with these NFT communities. And what we can do, and I'll talk about this in a little bit with regards to the dev portal, is we're able to now escape out of just these chats. So the groups that you've created as a community admin, leveraging, shared asset from a blockchain, and then being able to migrate those users to Discord, you should also be able to migrate them out. And that's part of this evolution that we're seeing, and part of the reason why we've launched the dev portal and are going to pay for API access or have others pay for it. And what we want to do is make sure that we keep incentives aligned. Again, we're different than what a Instagram to Threads have been doing, right? In that we as Collab Land are not quite a platform, and we as Web3 enthusiasts firmly believe in selective disclosure and the data belonging to the user. So when we talk about paying for API access, there is going to be a mechanism design that allows for those that hold the collab token to be able to benefit because it's not for us about accruing as much data from a platform perspective, but really allowing a more direct connection with users and their data. So while we are evolving along with the rest of the wider internet because of AI and the concerns of scraping user information that you're seeing in Twitter and Reddit, limiting access, we are fundamentally different. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that. And it's a bit nuanced, but it is following the wider trend of what's happening in Web 2. What's also interesting, and this is my fourth point here on the slide, is that AI startups being commoditized. And what does that mean? This is new information that I wanted to share here, but also falls under the second order effect. What we're seeing is that a lot of AI startups that are venture backed actually not performing that well because it's so easy to be able to leverage large language models. And it's the nature of AI, that the technology of AI when it comes to startups don't require these huge amount of funding. And I put in a Twitter thread here, and I replied on my personal Twitter account to this. And maybe we can put that in the Discord chat, stage chat as well. It's a kind of a lengthy read, but it's really a second order effect that is being seen already when it comes to financing of startups. So what I mean by that is that it doesn't take a large amount of initial capital in terms of creating a company or a business that is AI related or specific. And what you're seeing with that is the rise of smaller groups. So the extreme example of that is the rise of the solo entrepreneur or the solopreneur, as they concatenate the word together, where you have one or two people being able to self-fund themselves and be able to monetize. And this changes what it means to be a startup. And I'll bring this back to Collab Land in a minute. But I think it's really interesting to understand this from a financing perspective, is that when you are using AI in your product as a startup, you don't need to raise a huge amount of capital. And the consequence of not having to have raised a large amount of capital is that you no longer, as an entrepreneur, are expected to have these outsized returns, these venture scale returns, right? And so what you can do is have a business or a community, and this is where it's going to circle back to Collab Land, where the funding does not need to come from venture capitalists. The funding can come from people on the internet. You don't have to raise a lot of money. And because you don't need to raise a lot of money, you don't need to have these outrageous unicorn type returns. And what we're seeing here is that this fits really well along with all the other technical kind of alignment that we're seeing with Web3 and AI. But this really allows for community-based funding to happen. And this is what we're really interested in terms of exploring, in terms of the second order effect of AI and Web3. So when we hold on to that thought, I'm going to come back to it in a second, but I want to move on and just kind of paint this picture so that we can have proper context. So if we move on to the next slide, we're going to talk about this like new era of the internet. And with this new era of the internet, and we're seeing this already with like Twitter, right? Like Twitter Blue subscription, they're offsetting advertising. Or when you see Reddit Premium, when it comes to having to pay for API service. So there's this blended revenue stream that is happening right now when it comes to the difference between just purely advertising-based platform and being able to have multiple revenue streams and having subscriptions. I don't know if those that are on Twitter have seen that Twitter has been giving out creator rewards, and Twitter influencers have been posting what they have received in terms of like the ad revenue that Twitter is sharing with creators. And this trend has actually happened already in Asia. So with WeChat, and actually you're seeing this. I don't know if those of you that are on TikTok have seen the kind of NPC streaming that's been going on. I don't know if people are familiar with the whole ice cream so good, yes, yes, yes memes that have been generated via tips, where creators are being able to entertain their viewers and getting real-time microtransaction. So like an ice cream is like equivalent to 1 cent, but they're getting these tips very frequently. And so we're already seeing this happening in the West or in the US in terms of platform. But this is something that has occurred, and where Asia, when it comes to social media, actually has been ahead of the curve for many years. So, what we're seeing in general, not only in terms of this new era of the internet blending advertising and subscription, is that we're seeing what has worked in the East coming toward the West. We've seen this, and I've seen this as well in other industries. So with social casual games, these microtransactions occurred for like a decade in Japan prior to coming to the United States. I was involved. I was part of a company called Zynga, and a lot of the social casual games, even prior to mobile taking, was this experiment in microtransactions. And so we've seen that, 15 years ago happening from the east to the west when it comes to games. Now we're seeing the same kind of pattern happening coming from the east to the west when it comes to social media. And so we need to, as Collab Land, be careful when it comes to what we share and how we share it. So we need to make sure that we are privacy enhancing, but there's going to be issues when it comes to the limitations of data availability. And this is a kind of fine line that we are playing with here. And this is going to be expressed in the dev portal and our probot. So what we're seeing is all this kind of interconnected. So how does this, if you take a step back, apply to AI? Well, it doesn't directly from a feature perspective when it comes to Collab Land, but it does affect us kind of how we move forward as we express features and how we monetize. And this also is shaping the future of social media in general. And finally, it's redefining startup finance. So what we are looking to explore is the possibility that people that are just on the internet, that have some shared mission or value, since AI is now lowering the barrier to startup finance. And in Web3, if we have this internet-based money and we're lowering the barrier of startups and communities come together, finance, be able to embrace this internet-based feature called AI. Because with LLMs, it's very much needing data. And how do we blend the two together in a way that allows for the concept of decentralization, the idea of self-sovereignty and selective disclosure, but at the same time can evolve with this kind of change that we're seeing when it comes from, especially in the West, fully advertised based to subscription based. So I'm laying out this picture and taking a step back. In the last couple of AI team meetup, we talked about how AI is going to be embraced with Collab Land directly from a technical perspective. But here, what we're trying to do and be thoughtful of at Collab Land is not only the technical integration and implementation details, but also how the second order effect when it comes to how we can bootstrap these communities, the financing aspect of startups, and how that is going to blend it together, and what direction we as Collab Land are going to take based off of all of this evolution that's happened. So if we move on to the next slide, I can talk about it in more detail. And I just want to pause for a second because I've talked for a long time about some really high level concepts, and I'm still trying to set context here so that I can bring this all together and tie up all the threads. So I'm going to look at the stage chat and pause there for a second so that everyone can absorb or kind of come up with their questions if they have any. So I see one from, I'm just scanning here on the stage. I'm just pausing here before I move forward so I don't try not to lose anyone. So Joy to the World is saying, so startups may not have to bend to the dictates of venture capitalists. Yes, that's exactly right. So, another way to put what I'm saying is that Web 1, you had the like the Yahoos of the world, right? Everyone went to a specific destination site, and you had the people at Yahoo dictate what information was being put out. That's Web 1. That was like producer to consumer. You had these traditional gatekeepers like you do in radio and newspaper and traditional television. And then with Web 2, you had the consumer be the producer. And this is a whole thing with social media, right? Following people and all of this, right? Web 3 allows the producer and the consumer and the investor to all be the same person. So what you're doing here is you're allowing this financing to happen. However, with startups prior to AI, is that the startup financing required a lot of money. So in 2017, you see the ICO boom. This previous cycle, when it comes to NFT communities, you are seeing a lot of large funds being raised here and a lot of money being used. But what we're seeing now is the ability for startup financing to change. And this is what we're seeing is that without having to bend to the dictates of venture capitalists, because venture capital requires, because of the way venture capital financing works, requires large return. You may now be able to have these NFT communities be able to slowly and incrementally, without these unnatural need to hit a home run, as to now be able to organize and be able to have these organizations that are internet native to be launched, these businesses. When you look at them, they can look like businesses, they can look like communities, but it's all kind of this one thing. And this is what we are striving to blend together at Collab Land. Right. Do you have a Threads account, and how do you, I'm looking back at the stages. Do you have a Threads account, and how do you feel about Threads? It's a really interesting question because I do have a Threads account. It's James Young, if you want to follow me there. It is very early days. The initial Threads platform has gotten a lot of traction early on. I think the novelty of Threads is really interesting and allows for a lot more playfulness, because the culture of the social network, that system, even though it's relying on the initial user base of Instagram, and so it has a demographic, which is different than, let's say, the demographic of Twitter, but the culture has not yet been set. And what I think what we're looking at here is the evolution of social media, where you now, instead of having to create, if you wanted to create a social network, instead of having to create a social network from scratch, you can leverage a previous network to start a new one. And I think that, when you look at the aging population and the decline of interaction to huge networks like Facebook, they're so huge that they're not going to just implode. They're just going to slowly wean off. And what I think is interesting with Threads is you're seeing a new social network being bootstrapped off the backs of a previous, with different cultures being set. And I think that this is the future of social, right? What happens when the population of TikTok ages in like 10 to 15? You'll, most likely see another TikTok like, who knows, it may be using AR VR, right? So I think there's this, now we have enough people on the internet, on mobile, that we can start leveraging, and we probably won't start social networks from scratch again. And this is where it's really interesting, because what does that mean for Web3? Are there going to be Web3 native social networks that start from scratch, which is difficult because of the nature of decentralization? Or are there going to be social networks that are going to be Web3 based, but that are going to leverage Web2 platform. And that's more of the kind of strategy that we're using at Collab, where, and this is why we, didn't have our own Collab Land native chat platform. We're leveraging what already exists. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see if Threads can maintain retention, if they can actually get users not only to bootstrap the network through Instagram, but if Threads can create quickly their own culture here where people are going to transact. It's going to be interesting. And for Collab Land, we see the same kind of uh, opportunity here. But with each NFT community or DeFi community or DAO, we see different like mini cultures emerge. So there's going to be a lot more fragmentation, I believe. But I think that it's still yet to be played out. And now with the advent of AI, we'll see other opportunities emerge. Looking here, I just want to pause there. I hope that helps answer the question. And there's another stages. Anyone read Decrypt article about 5 million token grant ICP to build a decentralized AI tool using Internet Computer Protocol? I have not seen that. That is very interesting. I know some folks there at Dfinity as well. So that's very interesting. So thank you for that. Oh, thank you, Boquito. Thank you. All right. So with that, I'll pause and I will now continue back on the slides here to set the context now that we've had a minute or two to kind of absorb this kind of AI trend and the second order effects of AI, not from just a technology perspective, but also from a financing perspective, and how this opens the door for allowing people on the internet to collectively form without needing venture capital potentially, and not because of not needing venture capital, not needing the outsized returns that venture capital requires. So how do we express this practically with the Collab Land, within Collab Land? And this is what I want to get to and talk about. We launched the dev portal. Now it was less than 3 weeks ago, but this is the third week of the Collab Land dev portal. And now we are allowing this kind of branching outside of just Telegram and Discord. So with the Collab Land API, you can token gate website. And so what we're looking at is seeing signs of life of being able to have your community and then port them across different properties. So you can imagine you have a Collab Land Discord server that you are an admin and that you're helping with modding, for example, and now you want to move them over to a website. Well, now you can, and you can have your communities be portable. So just like in a centralized example with Instagram creating threads, can we create something similar in a decentralized fashion with these token gated websites? So moving your communities in between Telegram and Discord if you want, and then moving them out to website. And what then happens is we, instead of Collab Land being the platform, we are just the enablers, so that we empower the community to become their own platform. And we are seeing some signs of life on that, especially on the NFT side. There are some really interesting examples of NFT communities that are transitioning themselves from just NFTs and investments to media and getting out there on platforms like Instagram. So I would highly encourage, one example that comes to my mind is Pudgy Penguin. So if you look at Pudgy Penguins and seeing what they're doing on Instagram, it's really fascinating because they're building up a media brand. And I believe, and I think Anjali is the one that told me about this, is that they were one of the top sellers on Amazon as well with their merch. So you're seeing this evolution of tokenized communities becoming media platform. And what we want to do is make sure that we can enable that. And that was part of this lower level infrastructure that we are exposing. And it's going to evolve over time. And this doesn't directly have to relate with AI in that it's not something from a feature perspective that we are unlocking with AI. It's that AI has now allowed the second order effect where if you want to incorporate AI, you can then lower the barrier of what it means to get finance. And you're seeing that independent of AI, and you're seeing some of these blue chip NFT communities that are well led and managed be able to do that without AI. And so what we're saying here and what I'm talking about is what more can you do when you do introduce AI and lower the barrier? And part of that aspect to these APIs that we are creating is this login with Collab Land. And this has to do with identity features. And I'll talk about that in my next slide. So hold on to that thought. But this is how the dev portal is being used right now in terms of, you know, an expression of where we're going. So I'll finish this dev portal slide and then move on to the Probot line. But just note that this login with Collab Land is a thread, is connecting the dots. Login with Collab Land is connecting the dots with the dev portal to the Probot. But before I go on with that, a second feature of the dev portal is the ability to submit mini apps. So you as a developer should be able to now use Collab Land as a distribution. And we're really excited about that. We've talked about this for a while. We are able to understand what this means. And from a install perspective, we've watched the data and we've been tracking it. And again, this is leading up to, okay, now third-party developers can submit their mini apps for distribution on the platform, and developers can now begin monetizing. And how does the monetization of mini apps also fit in with the Probot? Well, we at Collab Land are going to be the first ones to introduce this. So we had a bunch of free mini apps that we created within the mini app marketplace. And now we're moving toward how can we experiment with monetization as well. So not only does login with Collab Land fit in with what we're doing with the Probot, but also the mini app monetization is our kind of first expression of it's going to be expressed by the Probot. And so moving on to the next slide, we can talk about the Probot. So with the Probot launch that we are coming out with, so this is alpha here, and I'm saying this because, again, it may not have to do directly with AI, but it has to do with how we are evolving at Collab Land, how we're going to introduce AI as well. So with the Probot launch, we're going to have these premium bot services. Not only are we going to have premium bot services that we're going to monetize, but we're going to leverage Collab Land identity with the GM pass. And this is where the login with Collab comes into. So I don't want to get into the full expression of what we're doing with the GM pass in this call, because I know that this is more related to AI. But with the GM pass and serving as your identity, and as we allow users to, community admins, to leverage this and break out of just Telegram and Discord and into the wider internet, the GM pass also sets us up for the ability for those that are interested in the crypto curious, to be able to ride along with those that are crypto native, whether you're NFTs, DAOs, or DeFi. and be able to participate together. And this is where we are expanding what we're doing, because Collab Land, when we look at the data and when we look at the numbers, we are beginning to saturate Web3 natives and Web3 in general. And while Web3 is growing, there are a bunch of signals that we're seeing coming from Web2 that show us, and this is what we're going to be experimenting with, and why, again, we launched the developer portal so we can break out into the wider internet, because we believe that the surface area for Web 2 and the interest of Web 2 is a lot bigger than those that are trying to actively jump into Web3 right now. And, you know, crypto goes through cycles, and everyone can acknowledge that we're in the middle of a bear cycle right now. So where are the opportunities? Well, we're seeing increased opportunity and demand from the Web2 space. So this is where we are going to start leveraging and giving everyone the ability to get a decentralized ID as we break out from Web3 into Web. So just want to stop there for a minute and pause for a second. I'm going to look at the stage comments as well, and then happy to answer any questions. If we want to move on to the last slide, give a couple of minutes for those that want to ask if there's any Q&A. All right. And then I don't know if this is a good time as well, Chibi, to pause for a second and about the POAP.
Sounds good to me. I'm just gonna check out, make sure that everything's set up. But in the meantime, I also mentioned in the chat, in case that you guys missed it, we have a POAP for our Dev Portal release as well. It's a celebration POAP, and all you need to do in order to get it is to go to the Dev Portal, take a screenshot, and then post it in this channel that's called Dev Portal POAP. Very easy. Just go to the website. I'll link that in the chat as well. Real quick. Okay. You also have the instructions in the channel as well. Let's grab that real quick. So again, you go to dev/portal.collab.land, post a screenshot in the Dev Portal POAP, and that's about it. We will be distributing these POAPs, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday, so you have until then to post your screenshot. Oh, it looks like we have a question for you, James.
Okay, yes, thank you, Chibi. While we distribute the POAP, I'll answer this question. How would AI apply to metaverse virtual portals that allow you to port NFT asset across the open metaverse? So, one, I think, let me answer that question. How could AI apply to metaverse virtual portals? So I think there's a lot of ways that we're going to see this. So from a user perspective, I think that you're going to, as a user, and this is what we're setting out for, and this begins with the GM, is that you will have an AI agent. So your wallet will be controlled by you, but instead of having to do every little message signing and transaction, you will be able to tell an AI what you want to do in general, and then it will find the most efficient route for you, so that if you have some assets that are available to be used in a metaverse application, you won't have to just be searching and finding. The AI agent on your behalf will be able to, based off of the general rules that you set. So right now, Collab Land, we have token gated roles in Discord. We have token gated access in Telegram. These are just rules that you're setting based off of the ownership of asset. Here we can extend the rule functionality to the user via AI and allow the AI to follow these rules that you set as a user. So, you're not having to micromanage every little thing. You can actually defer. And as AI matures, we want to make sure, first of all, that we keep all users safe. So we're going to work slowly into this, but the AI will be your agent eventually. So the example is with Amazon. I click a button because I want to buy a product. I don't have to say to Amazon, I want this product shipped to a specific delivery center. I don't want then from that, I don't want to be able to micromanage that and say, okay, from that delivery center, it has to go on truck number 8475 with driver ID number 236. And I don't want and have that driver follow this very route. I have my address already stored within Amazon, one click. I know how much I want to pay, and that's it. And then I just expect it to be delivered. In crypto right now, if you want to join a metaverse project and you first need an NFT, well, that requires a certain token, and what token can you use to swap for that token to get that NFT. Like all of these details right now, you as an end user need to figure out yourself. So just like in the Amazon example, there will be an AI agent that will figure this out in real time on your behalf. This is what we're calling intent. And the Ethereum ecosystem is exploring this. And so this is how we'll be able to port assets across open metaverse without at the same time just reducing that like technical barrier or understanding of how you need to do transactions and like all of the complications that really we're very early in Web3 that we'll be able to abstract in a way that holds true to the values of self-sovereign selective closure for the. I hope that helps answer that question. And yeah, wow, the barriers are dropping. AI will accelerate the ease of Web3 blockchain use, massive increase in onboarding. Exactly. That's the goal. We want to do this without sacrificing user privacy and self-sovereignty. I'll pause there and let Chibi talk about the co-op.
Real quick. And thank you, Joy, to the world for asking this question. And you, James. I do agree that this should ease massive increase in onboarding, which is the dream, really. Like I would just love so much to see that in the near future. So let's work towards that. And for the POAP. Okay, so we mentioned the Dev Portal launch celebration POAP. I wrote the instructions in the state chat, but again, all you need to do is to go to dev/portal.collab.land, take a screenshot, and then post it in the Dev Portal POAP channel. Very easy. Now for the AI research team meetup session of today, we'll be using the POAP mini app. Very easy process. So for these, you need to write down /POAP claim in any of the chats of the server, /POAP claim, and it will ask you for a claim phrase. That claim phrase is PROBOT, all lowercase and with no spaces in between. Again, PROBOT, that would be PROBOT, PROBOT. So just that word, all lowercase again with no spaces in between. Then you can hit enter and you will receive a code to claim your POAP. Please let us know if it worked and let me know if you like this new design. I really appreciate every and any comment or feedback and will be considered in the future. So thanks for that. I see that next already claimed. Amazing. I'm in the process of claiming mine as well. So let's go. One more time, just in case, the secret phrase would be PROBOT, all lowercase, with no spaces in between, to claim today's AI research team meetup session. So I see a lot of claimed POAPs, so it looks like there's no issues with the claiming, which is amazing. And one of the reasons why I love this mini app, it's just very simple to set it up and also to claim. So kudos to that.
Amazing. Thank you. And I think everyone here today that have claimed the POAP has definitely earned it, because this is quite complicated to explain. And I'm using these AI meetup sessions to help me kind of narrate and create that story to verbalize. So I really appreciate everyone in the audience being able to hang tight, because these are complex concepts and abstraction that it's difficult to see where the dots have connected. And really, the only reason why I'm able to express this is because I've been thinking about this for years. And to me, I've looked at this in many, many different and so it makes sense to me. I am using these sessions and this platform to help cultivate this narrative here, and getting feedback. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask and be able to, challenge me in terms of what makes sense and what doesn't. So I know where to clarify. And it makes a lot of sense from not only a narrative. I wanted to make sense not only from a narrative perspective, but also for feature development. When we talk about the dev portal, API, the mini app, and what that means. And as we release the GM Pass globally, it's available in the Collab Land Discord, but we are going to provide the GM Pass globally with in all of the Collab Land managed Discord servers, and that's going to lead to other things when it comes to account abstraction, which we can talk about in another AI meetup. That also is a when we talk about intense AI agent in the future. So all this comes together. It's hard to keep all of these kind of in your head at the same time. And again, the only reason why I'm able to do this is I've been thinking about this for many years. Like I've been thinking about account abstractions since EIP 86, I believe it was, back in like 2016 when they first started talking about account abstraction. And I've been waiting for it for a while. And so super excited that now the ecosystem is now putting this all together. And now we also have this externality that I did not think about was going to happen when I was thinking about this 5 years ago when it comes to AI. But it's here. And I think AI actually speeds up that adoption in a good way and in a not good way. So and I've talked about kind of dystopian aspects of AI as well, and why we need verifiable credentials. So please ask questions, provide feedback, because this will allow not only for me to be able to express this narrative more clearly and succinctly, but also allow all of you that are part of the community to explain it easily to others as well. And we're seeing signs of this happening, and this is the evidence that I'm trying to provide here to make a case for this comes to what's happening in the broader Web 2 space, as well as what's happening and would probably will in the next AIT meetup give a recap as well of what happens at ECC, which is a developer conference, Ethereum-based developer conference that's happening right now. It's the largest developer conference in Europe. And so want to make sure that we are swimming with the tide here with the market and the ecosystem, and I think we are. And this every 2 weeks, these meetups allow me to express and practice narrative. So we have this overall vision, and we're trying to get there. And I think we can all agree on the vision, and that's one thing. But what we want to do is make sure that we can make it a reality. And making it a reality requires us to be able to have contact with the ecosystem, with the marketplace. So we're not building in just a vacuum. All right. Uh, we have 3 minutes left. Let me look at the stage chat here. Looks like people are claiming their POAPs, which is great. And Joy to the World saying, appreciate your ability to translate such a complex subject into digestible layman terms. I'm extremely interested in AI. Unfortunately, my limited technical knowledge was hindrance. Really enjoy the AI meetups. Thank you for this feedback. I think what we're going to see is that you won't need to have technical knowledge. AI is going to be the tool that lowers the barrier. And there are even more exciting things that are in plan that we first need to implement. But just real quick, a bridge started as no code tooling. And this was even prior to AI. And what our idea was back then is we need to redefine what it means to be a developer, because the more developers there are, the more apps they'll be able to produce, and the more utility that crypto will have. But being a developer is such a big barrier. We need to redefine what it means to be a developer and lower the barrier. And I think our no code tooling with AI is going to be something that it's not going to be probably within next few months, but as we unfold, we have these dev tools, and as we learn and are able to incorporate the no code dev tools with AI, I think is going to unleash a whole set of people that are interested, but for whatever reason may not have the ability or the opportunity to learn coding. And so we want to redefine what it means to be a developer. Sorry, go ahead, Chibi.
Oh, no, not a problem. I just wanted to repeat one more time the secret phrase because I see Frosty asking. So for you, Frosty, the word for the POAP is probot. PROBOT. Robot, all lowercase, and with no spaces in between.
Thank you
Please.
so much, Chibi.
Oh, of course. Please, Frosty, let us know if you got it this time. Again, one more time, just in case. Robot would be the secret phrase to claim the POAP.
And thank you, Chibi, and thank you, Joy of the World, for the kudos. I really appreciate that. I thought that I would only have maybe 20 or 30 minutes worth of material to discuss, but now we're at the top of the hour, and I spoke for almost an hour. I guess you can tell I'm very passionate and interested in this, and my objective is not only to help lead this and make sure that this gets built out, but be able to communicate this. And accessibility is super important. Permissionlessness and decentralization and being censorship resistant are the core tenets when it comes to block. So, the use of this technology will only matter if people use it, but we can't just make it so hard to use that only a few people can. So our job here at Collab Land is to move forward the idea of decentralization, censorship resistance, and permissionlessness, but also making it easy for people to participate. So I appreciate the kudos. Go to the world. And thank you, Chibi. I know we're 1 minute over, so maybe this would be a great time to wrap up.
Sounds good to me. And thanks, James, for this fantastic session as always. I had a last question. I think it's a brief one, if that's okay.
Yes.
And it's a general one. Like, where do you stay up to date with like AI news? Like what would that be, Twitter, or would you recommend any maybe website, or like if people want to learn more or even to get started, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I would recommend going on to Twitter. Twitter is the place where I keep up to date. If you follow me on Twitter, James Young, you can see who I'm following in the AI space. There are a bunch of AI Twitter lists that you can join, and I would recommend that. The person I would start out with following is Robert Scoble. Let me see if I quickly find his Twitter handle and um, Robert. See, you know what? I'll put it in the stage chat.
Sounds good.
Scobleizer is his name. So it's at Cobleizer, Twitter. Yeah. Okay. So I just
Appreciate
put
it.
a quick note there for those that want to try and keep up. That would be a good jumping off point to start out.
Mhm. Yeah, because I don't know if it's the same case. Well, it's everyone knows. Um, everyone's at a different date when it comes to what everyone knows, and like there's just so much out there that it's sometimes difficult to even figure out how to get started. There's so much going on every day. And I think I'm one of those persons. I'm learning a lot during these sessions, but also I feel like I'm not as knowledgeable even when it comes to the basics. So this is great that you can give us advice on where to get started, or that you can point us to accounts or websites or anything that you find useful, so that we can take a look at those and maybe get to learn some more. So I appreciate that. Thank you, James. And yeah, I'll check it out. I'll check
Yes.
this link out.
Thank you. Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's really hard to keep up, but hang in there and it will click. And for me, I'm still learning as well. So would love to have more conversations about this because it's about being engaged. And really, it's about evolving. And so being curious and learning is all you need to make sure that you can keep up and then eventually you know be able to be a thought leader here and participate, and really starts with uh kind of shared values, and then from there the rest are details when it comes to learning, catching up with the technology, especially when it comes to AI.
Yeah, for sure. It's also so much more fun if you learn with others, like these sessions, and like sharing what you learn or any interesting links in the chats. I think that's so much more fun. So thanks everyone again for being here and for sharing your knowledge and for asking questions, and yeah, for participating. I think at least for me, it's such a fun process. So I'm thankful for that.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for listening and interacting, and please keep the question.
For sure. And with that, I think that we are good now to wrap things up. Again, thanks everyone so much for being here. We'll have the next AI in Collab Land Research Team meetup in 2 weeks. So we'll see you guys then.
Thank you, Chibi. Thanks everyone, and see everybody online.
See you then. Bye bye.
Bye.